Yo, what's up guys? AD back with another Destiny Child video, and in today's video everyone, we are going to be discussing the Endless Duel Engarde event. As you can see, I believe we do have season 8 here now. Yeah, season 8, which is pretty insane that we are on this season already, but nonetheless, we do have the events currently going on. It's been about 2 days since the event did launch, but I did still want to overview my team and suggestions here for this season's Engarde event, as you will want to clear the 12 win best season record rewards here towards the top of the screen, as of course you'll want this 2022 child select box, and of course that's amplified attack core lucky box, which is very helpful. But nonetheless, that 2022 child select box is very strong, so hopefully this video does help you guys out in achieving those rewards. But nonetheless, let's get started with the overview of the Engarde event. As you can see, for this season's battle buff, we do have no limits on the base rarity or ignition level, but we do have you cannot use light types. So those very annoying light type teams consisting of Nautilus, Amelia, Light Jachungbi, etc., they won't be seen in this season's Endless Duel Engarde events, which is very thankful to see, as of course those units are pretty obnoxious, and of course we all know how annoying Nautilus is. Honestly, don't like that character at all. But to continue on here, we do have increased attack for both attacker enemies and attacker allies, so you could expect to see more attacker units here in this season's Engarde event, in which we'll discuss with the suggestions later. And we also do have increased skill gauge charge speed for both attacker enemies and attacker allies, so very interesting info there for this season's Endless Duel Engarde event, and you'll want to adjust your teams accordingly based on those buffs. Now we do have the forbidden childs for this event, in which we do have Raffles, Sol, Ymir, Seth, Maupin, and Forcus. So as you can see, tons of defenders are banned for this event, but we still do have some that had gone through that are very helpful for this season. Now first, I'll review these team suggestions thanks to Laotie 101 from the CN Discord server, so I'll be sure to have their graphic linked in the description box below, but I'll pull it up here on screen right now so you guys can check out the suggestions they did make, or you could look in the top 100, as most of the teams are running these suggestions here. Now we do have the first team suggestion here, which is recommended for more of the lower investment players here on Destiny Child, and of course you should have some of these options ignited actually thanks to the current Lisa's Extra Lessons event. So let's get started with the first row here, in which we do have Forbidden Eve, the water type attacker. Next up we do have Anemone here, the water type supporter. Of course you should have her fully ignited thanks to Lisa's Extra Lessons. And moving on here, we do have Thisbe. Following Thisbe, we do have Laotie, and ending off the first row with Limos. Now Limos is actually very strong for this event, considering we are running tons of attacker allies, so you should run into tons of attacker enemies, and with Limos and her Confuse skill, you should definitely take advantage of those attackers, and hopefully you should see some of them managing to explode themselves, resulting in pretty easy wins in this Endless Duel event. Now for the second row here, we do have Artemis here. Of course Artemis is very strong for Endless Duel in general. You'll see her in the 5-star mode regardless, and of course in this Endless Duel Engarde event she'll be there on nearly every team, since we did manage to obtain her for free from the previous Lisa's Extra Lessons event, as well as the option to pick her from the current one. Now moving on here, we do have Phantom Thief Lupin. Following Lupin, we do have the 4-star fire type defender in Echo. She is very strong for this event. I'm personally running her myself, and of course if you do manage to have this unit ignited, she is very amazing. And considering the fact that she is a 4-star character, she will only take 3 ignition cores to fully ignite, and of course the Onyx, etc., but nonetheless a very low investment, considering a 5-star unit does take 12 cores rather than the 3 cores for a 4-star. Now moving on here, we do have Mascot Clotho, the dark type defender, suggested to run alongside Echo here for you lower investment players. And for the final units here, we do have a White Hand Isolate, the very amazing water type debuffer. I honestly do think Isolate is one of the best debuffers without ignition. I personally do run her in the Devil Rumble with no ignition, and she does her job just fine. So definitely a very good character here with or without ignition. option. Of course, she does get better with that ignition process, but nonetheless a very strong water type debuffer that every team should have her. Now for the final row here, we do have Courtesan Bathory. Moving on, we do have Newbie Mona, in which most of you should have her fully ignited thanks to the current Lisa's Extra Lessons event. And next up, we do have another 4-star defender here in Halloween, a very strong water type defender, very amazing for this Endless Duel event. I'm also running this character, in which I'll show you guys my team comp in just a bit as well. Now moving on here, we do have Lan Fei, which is the dark type debuffer. Quite a few of you should have her fully ignited thanks to the current Lisa's Extra Lessons event. As you guys are noticing across this trend here, plenty of these characters were obtainable for free, such as Anemone, Artemis, Newbie Mona, Eve, as well as Lan Fei. So a good chunk of you should have obtained some of these characters from the current Lisa's Extra Lessons events, and hopefully you guys did manage to pick some of these PvP options, as they'll be very amazing in other areas as well outside of the Endless Duel Engarde. Now for the final slots here of the last row, we do have 4-star Flynn's, which does happen to be the fire type debuffer. So if you do manage to have him, you can consider running him, but of course some of these options here are totally replaceable. You can substitute some options if you don't happen to have many of these characters invested into, and I'll be sure to show you guys some suggestions here in Destiny Child in just a bit. Now to wrap up this team composition here, thanks to Laotie, you should run Thisbe as your leader skill, and of course run the first row consisting of your Eve, Artemis, and Courtesan Bathory as your drive skills, as you'll want to take advantage of those attacker allies of yours. As for the skill order of all of these characters, as you can see, every character besides Anemone will be running slide, and for Anemone here, you'll be running her on slide tap for the skill order. As for the second team here, everyone, this team here is for more of you mid to end game players, as of course you should have a decent amount of these characters invested into, considering how strong they are in the Double Rumble as well as Endless Duel. Now moving on here, we do have the first row considering of Krsnik, the fire type supporter. She is on nearly every top 100 team. You should see her on every team, honestly, as this character is very strong alongside her fire type allies due to the stun that she does have on her drive skill, as well as the frenzy, which is very amazing for those fire type allies, in which we do have the first here consisting of Kalaratri, a very strong fire type debuffer here for this season's event, and of course very amazing alongside Krsnik. I'm personally running Kalaratri at +6 unignited, and she's doing just fine. And moving on here, we do have Limos here, which is a core unit for this team, as she is very amazing due to that confusability in which we did discuss earlier. Now moving on, we do have Isolate here as well as Anemone, very familiar faces here considering the last team composition. And for the next row here, we do have Artemis, Summer Citry here, in which you will want to run her leader skill. This wood type debuffer is honestly just so amazing, so you should be sure to run her on your roster. Now moving on here, we do have Echo, the 4-star fire type defender. Next here, we do have Nicole, the water type debuffer. And for the final units of this row, we do have Laotie, the fire type healer. Now for the final row here, everyone, we do have Ariel, the water type attacker, in which you should run her, as she's a pretty amazing water type attacker for the PvP side of Destiny Child. And since the attackers are buffed for this season's events, you should run her regardless, as she'll be dealing a ton of damage throughout her drive skill, and overall is just a great option. Now next up here, we do have the 5-star wood type debuffer in Strigoi. Of course, Strigoi is an amazing option for the normal 5-star Endless Duel difficulty, and in this season's Engarde events, she's very amazing as well. So if you do happen to have this character, make sure to run her. She's overall a very solid option, and definitely a great one since she will be used in the normal 5-star Endless Duel difficulty. Next here, we do have 5-star water type Neptune, the defender. Now I'm personally not running this character. I don't think she's too necessary, as well as some of the other options on this team definitely can be replaceable, such as Nicole, Strigoi, Ariel, as well as the wood type Mona, in which we'll get to in just a second. Now moving on here, we do have Methuselah, the water type debuffer. I would only recommend running this character if you do happen to have him ignited. Of course, he was an option in this current Lisa's Extra Lessons event, so if you did manage to grab him, overall that was a good pick, and you'll want to toss him onto your Endless Duel team. And for the final option here, we do have the 5-star wood type healer in Mona. Overall, she is an amazing option for the 5-star Endless Duel difficulty in general, and in this season's Engarde events she is also used, as she is a pretty amazing option. As for the drive skills that you'll be running on this team, you'll want to run the first row consisting of Krsnik as well as those 2 other attackers that you are going to be running. Of course, this will probably be Artemis, as well as the third option is totally replaceable here in REL, but I would definitely make sure to run Krsnik as well as Artemis if you are considering on using this team composition, as Krsnik is pretty much a staple for the meta teams here, in which we'll overview in just a second. So those were the 2 teams suggested by Laotie 101. So a huge thank you to them for putting together this graphic. I'll be sure to have it linked in the description box below. Now, unfortunately, it isn't translated, but I did break down the teams for you all, and we'll be discussing now some options that you can substitute if you don't happen to have some of these characters. Of course, as you guys can see my team composition here on screen, as we did manage to substitute some units such as REL, as well as the water type debuffer in Nicole, Strigoi, etc. So let's get started with the attackers. Of course, you can run a unit like Tokika here. She's a very amazing 5-hit unit here for the Endless Duel, and I do personally run her in the 5-star difficulty as well. She also does have poison, which is a very amazing portion of her slide skill, and she also does prioritize those fire type enemies, in which you'll be seeing a ton of them here in this season's Endless Duel Engarde. Now, we also do have other attacker options. Of course, any of the 6-hit sliders such as Ofue's Courtesan Battery, Pepita, Flower of Justice, Mafte, Ayane, etc. can be ran here in this season's Endless Duel Engarde events if you are struggling with those attacker options. Of course, any of these units here that you do manage to see on screen are also very great options here. You could also consider running the Tiamat here, as she is a very decent PvP type attacker, and of course the benefits here is that she is a fire type ally, so she'll work very well alongside a unit like Krsnik, as well as those other units such as Kalarachi and Limos that you'll want to run in this team as well. As for other attackers, I would just recommend to stick to those 6-hit sliders if you aren't happening to run a unit like Tokika or Artemis here. Make sure to stick in the realm of the 6-hit sliders here, and you should do totally fine in this Endless Duel event. Now, moving on to the debuffers, in which you might need to replace some of these. As I did mention earlier, some of those units like Strigoi are totally replaceable, in which we do have options here such as Lanfei. We did discuss this in the first comp, but she is totally usable here in the second comp, in which if you do happen to substitute a unit like Nicole or Strigoi here, Lanfei is very amazing due to the drive skill gauge reduction, in which that will help you out a ton in this Endless Duel Engarde event, as the race to fever is pretty much for the win. Now, moving on here, we do have another unit such as Burning Ziva. She's a very amazing fire type debuffer. Thankfully, she is a fire type, so she'll work well alongside Krsnik, etc. So make sure to give this unit a shot if you do happen to have her and would need to substitute one of those debuffers from the suggested teams. And we also do have another unit here such as Lady Battery. If you do happen to have this character, she's also an amazing option for this season's event, so make sure to give her a shot. But nonetheless, tons of great options here that you can substitute with for the Endless Duel Engarde team. As you can see my team on screen here, we do have Krsnik, Kalarachi unignited, Limos fully ignited, Isolate no ignition, Anemone full ignited. For the second row here, we are running Artemis, Summer Citri, Echo, Lanfei, and Laotie all fully ignited. And for the final row here, we are running Tokika, Ziva, Halloween, Methuselah, and Thisbe all at full ignition, with the leader skill of Summer Citri, as well as the first row being the drive skills here for the team of Krsnik, Artemis, and Tokika. As for the tap and slide orders here, everyone, you'll want to run slide skill on all of these units here, besides the Anemone, in which you could run her on slide tap if you would like. I'm personally only running her on slide only. So that'll pretty much do it for the team and units recommendations here for this season's Endless Duel Engarde events. Now, I don't have any runs for you all in today's video. I'll be sure to record my runs coming later tonight, as I did manage to do all of them already. But with the proof here, if you guys would like to see if this team is working or not for me, Personally, it is working very well as I am managing to rank within the top 30 right now. Hopefully I don't manage to lose, but my team is doing very well, and overall I hope you guys did manage to find these suggestions useful. I'll be sure to have Laotie's guide linked in the description box below, so make sure to check that out as well. And a huge thank you to them for putting together that amazing guide, as I personally did follow it as well, as you guys can see here, based on my team, and it is doing amazing. But that'll pretty much do it for today's Destiny Child video, everyone. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you guys did manage to find it enjoyable, as well as be sure to let me know in the comment section below if this guide was helpful to you at all as well. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so already and are interested in more Destiny Child as well as Goddess of Victory Nikkei videos. But with all of that being said, I'll catch you all in the next Destiny Child video. As always, thank you all so much for watching.